Indices were going up, up, up. Its subheads were enter optimism and exit fear. While such happy exclamations were filling the air in late 1955 and early 56, Tide explained to any merchandisers who might still be in the dark what was behind it all. Much of this exuberant chest beating, it said, was carefully calculated psychology devised by professional persuaders. The journal even coined the phrase psychological marketing to describe this new marketing technique, which it said was geared to meet the special needs of the psychoanalytical age in which we live. You see examples of it every day, it continued. Just recently, there were announcements of huge jet plane orders indicating confidence in the travel market in the next decade. There are other ones like Harlow Curtis's billion-dollar bet. Other leaders in business, industry, and finance speak out week after week expressing their faith in the economy. Automen talk of the 10 million car year just around the corner. Steelmakers talk expansion and more expansion. There are other less dramatic examples. The releases on expansion plans, the speeches to local groups, even the talk across lunchtime tables is all about expansion. Then it explained what it was all about, what was taking place. These men aren't talking just to hear their voices, nor do they enjoy venturing out on the economic limb. Their main aim is to beef up the confidence level of the nation by counteracting pessimism that sometimes gets voiced, so that dealers will keep on ordering goods and consumers will keep on buying goods at a higher and higher rate, and if necessary go into debt to do it. To maintain a pace of increasing consumption, it asserted, a higher level of credit buying must be maintained as well. There must be a continued willingness to expand. Such a willingness to expand, industrial thinkers had concluded, rested on confidence. Confidence in spending are handmaidens of an expanding economy, Tide stated. From a persuasion standpoint, this matter of confidence transcended anything else. The minute a glow of confidence left the landscape, all sorts of disagreeable things might happen. One thing that would surely happen would be that people might start watching their dollars and become more cerebral in their buying. That would make things difficult all over for depth merchandisers trying to tempt people into impulsive buying, status symbol buying, leisure buying, and many other kinds of self-indulgent buying. Dr. Dichter was most emphatic on the hazard involved if confidence was not kept at a high level. Now listen to this. So you can go through a lot of boring books, and it's just here and there you find the gem. Dr. Dichter was most emphatic on the hazard involved if confidence was not kept at a high level. Our prosperity is based on psychological foundations, he warned, not of real foundations, psychological foundations, and added that economists and business leaders who predict any dip in business are playing with fire and doing a disservice to the country. Now, what did you think economists were there for? What did I think they were there for? To do a science that was supposedly fairly exact. But here's Dr. Dichter saying, our prosperity is based on psychological foundations. He warned and added that economists and business leaders who predict any dip in any bad news, in other words, in business, are playing with fire and doing a disservice to the country. What was the evidence that confidence was crucial? Merchandisers were strongly influenced by the finding of the Survey Research Center psychologists at the University of Michigan, who kept a running chart on the buying mood of the United States public for the Federal Reserve Board. These probers found that there is such a thing as a national buying mood and were reported as being convinced that a generally cheerful atmosphere, more than any rational calculation, seems to make people feel like spending their money. Now, what it's actually saying here, Dichter is basically saying it's heresy to give the public bad news because they'll stop buying. Now, that's been known all along in this field, in economics. And they're always trying to push the good news. Is that the reason they don't tell us the truth? But think about the opposite of it. When they brought the present crunch on, this financial crunch, which was on the go all along, because basically the stock market was full of Ponzi schemes. In fact, it's all a Ponzi scheme. It's a pyramid scheme. It depends on new investors coming in all the time and older ones leaving their money in. That's how it's run. When this supposed financial crash came, it came from the top. The president himself scared the bejesus out of the general public with his gloom and doom of we're crashing. We're crashing. It could be worse than the Great Depression. Which tells you that this was another must-be. And it's only when you go into the other books to find the whole question of money is to change. The whole purpose of money is to change into a new society, a new economic society. The first part being Britain, the Bretton Woods Agreement, Part 1, where the founder himself, the chairman, the guy who ran it, said that this is only one part of a phase. Well, Mr. Bush was given the nod to start the next part of the phase, and it's being carried out right now, where we're going to go into a new economic system. If they wanted to go along with the religion of always saying, rah, 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 the economy is great, the people would be spending, regardless of reality. So to say, that was a must-be. You should go into the writings put out by the foundations that studied this, like I say, especially the ones like the great foundation that was set up by the Trotskyites who came across to the US and Britain, because they were fascinated to realize that these social psychologists at the top, these business psychologists, were running the country through their ability to go right to the consumer and get the consumer to change their ways and their values and all the rest of it. Right down to, say, in like a chapter in that particular book, The Hidden Persuaders, the feminization of the male. The men at one time generally never bought their own clothes. They didn't care what they wore. Fashion was an alien thing to them. They'd have one or two pair of shoes, or a pair of boots, a pair of baggy pants, a jacket, and maybe a suit for a funeral. That was about it. That's as far as they cared about. But because the women did the purchasing, they aimed at advertising mainly at the woman. And it became very successful. Because then you could work on the woman and say, through the advertising, does this look like your husband? And you see the smartly dressed guy, slim and probably younger, dressed in a flashy outfit, looking very trendy, and they'd say, this is the new successful man. And she would look at her husband and realize that there's old Joe wearing his old clothes, probably quite happy. And she would start to change him because she was doing the purchasing. Now they don't need that. They have the men doing it themselves. It's rather astonishing, as I say, to read articles going back so many years and with this book and others to do with the drugging of society, big pharma coming in to gain control over society, then so many things suddenly make sense to you. When they started to drug the children with Ritalin and all the other spin-offs of Ritalin, it all suddenly makes sense. They wanted to bring pharmacology right into the classroom, which they did, which they've done. It won't be enough to stop there because they're going to go an awful lot further. They generally bypass the older generations and go straight for the youth. And it's true enough for anybody under 30, because you're still very programmable up to the age of 30. Anybody above 30, they just forget. You'll die off. You're just working towards your pension, in fact. And you hope to be a good boy and get it and cause no ruffles. This particular article here is called 2020, and I think it's from the TES. Yeah, the TES. I guess it's the Teacher's Educational Supplement on 8th of June 2007 by Irena Barker. It says here, 2020, Dawn of the Intelligent Classroom. You notice there's a whole bunch of programs now called 2020 when they want to integrate even cybernetics with humans and chips and all the rest of it.